so that's what you're going to look at here. Questions to be addressed. We're going to look at some other stocks. We might have to change stock 3 because it's getting really difficult to get into our old stock 3. Dr. Passing knows another stock. She's going to take it to that's very similar to what was stock 3. Okay? They're quite nearby. So we'll review the question on stock 3 once we've had a look at the outcrop. You're looking at how do you define a reef? That's what this outcrop's all about. And you've got to think of it in terms of what you saw when you went diving on the reef the day before yesterday. And remember what we saw on the reef that we went diving on the reef yesterday was that it was a mosaic of facets. It wasn't one rock type. And when you look around this rock, maybe you'll see the same sort of thing. Maybe it's a mosaic of different rock types. Maybe there's a bit of packstone in some places, a bit of limestone in other places. Maybe there's cavity fill, which tells you that it was cemented up with an early marine cement lining. All these features are present. This was an outcrop that was studied 4 years ago now, 5 years ago now, by Miriam, an Iranian lady who was in the program. She did her MSc for research with me. And so part of that paper you've got, okay, that I gave you on the fluids in the Saraburi region, that I'm the senior author on, Miriam's one of the authors in there with some other students. This was the area that she did her thesis on. So you've got data on this area in that paper, okay? I think it's the first stock that's described. It's the stock where you see the pictures of the depositional textures with the encrustals, with the marine cements. So, you've got conception help here. If you go and refer to that paper, you decide, oh yeah, look, there's cavities, there's marine cements, and other things, and I'll point them out as we go along. Think about what we've got here. As I said, there is probably, if this is some sort of muddy reefal build-up, there will be a mosaic of facets. Somewhere you'll have a bit of mechanical reworking, otherwhere you'll have some brownstone textures and cavities. So wander around, have a look, and see what you see. I'll wander around with you, and Dr. Cassidy will point out all the bugs. She's the bug expert, okay? I can point to the diagenesis, she'll tell you all about what fossils you see. So you will see some crinoids, just the occasional crinoids. You'll see some calcareous alga. You'll see some, coral, yeah, occasional. You can see them bound together. I've seen them solitary, but not bound together. Yeah, you'll see some corals. Remember the corals have got that nice little septate structure that we looked at in the coral heads. You'll see similar things here in the coral heads here. And maybe you can decide whether you think they're a coral reef or some other sort of reef you're looking at here. Okay, but there are certainly corals in here, so look at how many there are and what their relationships are to the adjacent rocks. Okay, go for it, and we'll look at some textures as we go with you. Probably a good idea if we head down this way to start with. I want to show you some of the diagenetic features that I know are down there. Okay, what I'll point out from crinoid columnal figures so you know what they look like. They're very common around here. So if you look here, here, okay, and in the middle they've got that little, look at it up close to your hand, it's got a 5-pointed star-like structure. That's the calyx, the stem of a crinoid. Okay, so you see a lot of, there's more than one columnal plate in that section there, so that's part of the stem in there, and that's the cross section of the same thing, just there. Okay? Now once you get your eye in, you'll see them all over the place. There's a lot of crinoid debris, there's more there, it's all over the place. Now, Someone has to get down on their hands and knees and look at that rock and tell me how much mud's in there. Okay? You can decide, well, you know, you have to do it here, but as you walk around the outcrop, try and figure out how much mud versus how much grain texture you've got in here as well. Okay? And I think you'll decide that this is quite muddy. Now, what's the difference between a wax stone and a pack stone? Refer to the front of the exercise. If you can't remember, okay, it's on the front of that sheet. You got me, okay? Okay, it's mud, okay? With a wax stone, okay, pack stone, 10%. Okay, so is it mud supported or grain supported? Okay, other places you might find some sections that are also grain supported as well. It'll vary. Okay, where's bedding? Where is bedding here? Oh, don't know. Okay, that's another problem we've got. We don't even know which way's up yet. Okay, we don't know where the bedding is. So think about where bedding is as well. Okay, is it shallow dipping, steep dipping? How are you going to figure that out? Maybe there are some geopetal structures in here. There's some cavities with internal salmon on the bottom. You should look around to see if you can figure out which way's up. Okay, but there's a lot of mud in here. It's not all grain stone, okay, and this is not like we saw when we looked at the reef on 2 days ago. What was that day? Wednesday, Thursday. We saw a lot of mechanical reworking with grain stones, rud stones, float stones. Is that a float stone or is that a wax stone? Okay, it's got more than 10% grains in it, okay, so we're even looking at the wrong classification with wax stone, pack stone, okay, it's a float stone, okay, so, but over here, it's probably less than 10% porcelain sandstone, okay, so here it's a float stone, here it's a wax stone or a pack stone. Quite often, when you describe rocks in the field, and you're trying to figure out whether it's wax stone, pack stone, it can be quite difficult. And so often, carbonate sedimentologists, myself included, when we describe rocks in the field, we'll just put wax stone / pack stone and decide what it is when we get back to the lab and take a thin section. Okay? So I don't expect you to make exact determinations here, but what I want you to see is that there is a lot of variation of rock type close together here. That's one of the characteristics we talked about when you have a structure that was building up biologically. It's maybe capturing mud, it's maybe trapping mud, maybe shedding mud, okay, but it's shedding a lot of other sediments as well. So there's a whole diverse range. We haven't seen anything yet that lets us say this rock is wave resistant, it's cemented up earth, okay, so that's another thing you're looking for here in terms of evidence. Is there evidence of early cementation? One of the best ways to see early cementation is to look for cavities and cavity filling cements, okay, so you know they're here because it's in that paper. If you read that paper, there's pictures of it in that paper that you looked at last night, okay? But see if you can see some of the hand scales as we walk around here, okay? Okay, got the passion for the show?
This place is not good to look at because there's a itchy hand here.
Oh, which is the itching thing? Show us.
Oh, this one.
Show us what it looks like so we go.
Oh, you go.
Okay, so.
That way.
John,
Sorry?
I have one question. If we use the bound stone to identify the base, because bound stone is still
But you can have fragments reworked. Okay? Brownstone fragments will work. I'll show you some big blocks in a couple of days. Okay, that'll be reworked. Okay, so let's move away from the itching area.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let's go down. Can we go downhill a little? I want to show them something down the way here. Well, can we just go? I just want to. Is that itching vine over there, Stephanie?
Probably because they are everywhere.
Okay.
I saw it here too.
Okay. Well, before we go, don't go yet. I've never been itched yet. I just want you to look down over in this direction. I think we're safe if we stay here. We're away from the kitchen.
Let's stay step on the rock.
Stay on the rock to be okay. Okay, so there, you've seen it, okay? There's a feature over there, okay, on that rock face there. Don't walk through the fishing line. See that there? Yeah, look at that. Once you see one, you see more than one. Figure out what they is.
สาดสดเลยนะทำจริงว่ะ
เอาคันจริงแย่แล้ว
มีเขามีอะไรอะน้ำยาสบู่ไหม
เองต้องถอด
หมามุ้ยแล้ว เรียบร้อยแล้ว
เองต้องไปล้าง
ใช่ไปเลย มันจะมียาแก้แพ้แก้คันอยู่นะพี่หน่อย
ต้องถอดเสื้อออกเพราะมันจะมีขน
So the silly placement a bit stratigraphically above where we were down the hill. You can see this? This is a, well, Dr. Tashney thinks it's an andesite. She's probably right. I call it a dolomite. I don't care. It's an igneous rock, okay? And it's medium crystalline, so it formed at depth, okay? It's not fine-grained. It's not a basalt lava flow. It's an igneous sill, and you can see it paralleling the bedding through there. So here you actually got the contact in situ of what we were inferring down the road. You can actually see the contact. So once you've looked at that, we'll look at some other things that we did. So that answers the question quite clearly. What's the nature of that igneous and what are the relationships between the rock? Okay, you all got your photos? If you haven't, I'm going to stand in a minute. I want you to look at this feature here, especially the lower part of that feature. You'll see that the lower part of that feature is alternating marine cement, internal sediment, marine cement, internal sediment. This is later calcite. This is calcite's blown apart some of the aragonite, the last stage of aragonite cement. It's aragonite. This one's the most important. You can see internal cement layer, so internal sediment layer, and then a marine cement layer. And some more internal sediment, more marine cement. So it's alternating. So it's telling you more evidence that marine cement is very early. It's early enough so that we can get layers of sediment, mud washing into the cavity, and then stopping, and we get a layer of cement, then it stops and get another layer of cement. So it's quite a nicely layered structure. And it extends out to the right. You can see it here as well. This has been blown apart a bit by a late stage calcite here, but there you can see it quite clearly up there as well. Okay, so that's very good evidence, textural evidence, that this rock had cavities in it, which it was the same story we saw down there, except here it's a stratiform cavity. Down there we saw it also as Neptunian dikes, the same type of story. There's one of the classic, and once again we can tell which way's up by that one there, the internal sediments on the base, then the cavities on top, and the cement rind, and then the late stage calcite spar as well. So we've seen that texture again and again now, all through this rock. So we know that this rock was capable of supporting cavities, and so it was probably cementing up, probably by marine cements, and we're getting cavities with internal cement, internal sediment, internal cement alternating, and then if there was any cavity left later in the burial environment, it picked up these large white sparry calcite cements. And when people are looking over there, just above their head, there's some very large calcite sections up there, there's 10 centimetres long.
John, the early remains can be washed out. Early sediment.
Usually doesn't get washed out once it's in there. Usually these are small cavities, and so it's mud. No, that's not sand-sized sediment, that's mud-sized sediment. So it's coming out of suspension, it's literally settling down through the cavity. It's not, not getting. You see a few sand grains in some of them, but most of these cavities we see here, because most of the sediment that was moving around here, well, a lot of it was mud. Mud and suspension. You don't usually get enough current activity to wash the sand around. It gets into this fault at the bottom of the space. let's call it greenstone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Not sandstone implies quartzose. Okay. Yeah. Greenstone. But most of the sediment is washing in packstone. Not pure greenstone. Okay. Let's have a look up here now. Let's find a nice bit of it. Hang on.
That's a big hole. Circle one.
Yeah. See this? And there's a little hollow centre. There's more of them here. There's a whole bunch of crinoid columnals here. Okay? And there's a whole accumulation of them there. But look, they've got little rotrioidal rinds of cement around them. And over here we've got another marine cement cavity. Cement structure there. This is quite an interesting textured rock. So have a look at that rock there. It's quite interesting texture when you get up close, and then we'll talk about it, what it actually is. But it's got quite a bit of crinoid debris in that bit of rock there. And there's more crinoid debris. If we come around the corner, and we look in here as well. See these big crinoids? Big ones. Once you get your eye in, you'll see that there's a lot of crinoids in here. Some of them are quite large. In here, it's 2 centimetres across. So now that's the stem of the animal that was the crinoid, okay? That's the portion of it preserved. But that would have been a large crinoid. So this layer through here has a lot of coarse crinoid debris. So crinoid columnals that are a centimetre or more across. Now, there's still a lot of mud in amongst this, and there's a lot of marine cementation happening here, okay? The next outcrop we're going to take you to are beds of crinoid mudstone. This is probably what was weathering when it was growing to give us the crinoid mudstone. The general model for this structure would be in the shallowest part of this wave-resistant structure. There's a combination of calcareous sponges, algae, and coral. That was the shallowest part, maybe a few metres below the sea surface. Below that, around the edges of the mound, you've got increasing amounts of the crinoids growing. Crinoids like to live in somewhat deeper water than the calcareous sponges and the calcareous algae. Crinoids are not photosynthesizers, they're heterozoans. Okay? So they feed, so they can live in deeper water. They don't need good light penetration. Whereas the photozoan community, the calcareous alga, the corals, that association needs shallower water. So this sediment here was probably a little bit deeper water than what we saw back there. There's a lot more big, coarse crinoid debris, but there's still a lot of mud in here. It's not being mechanically reworked to any great extent. Okay? When it gets outside of the biological mounded structure, we get aprons of crinoid mudstone. And that's what we're going to see in the next outcrop. Okay? So, if you like, I think this is full of cement stone textures, it's full of cementation. The background of this, and this layer we're standing on here, is much coarser crinoid debris in here, along with the corals and the other calcareous alga debris, but it's got some big crinoids in here. But they're not pure mechanical accumulation still. There's a lot of mud and a lot of cement in here. Okay? The next stop we take, when we get back in the vans and drive to the next stop, you'll see that they are beds of pure crinoid mudstone. They've been mechanically reworked totally. And they're probably the deeper water equivalent of what's being sourced in this part of our reef mound build-up. Okay?
And in the deeper part of the crinoid mudstone, there will have a lot of residue in the shallow water. I mean,
Let's answer that question when we look at the rock. Okay, we'll have a look at when we get there and see what we see in the crinoid rock. You should get a picture of this to show you the coarser crinoid, muddy, coarse crinoid sedimentary layer with the background. As I said, there are very spectacular cavity textures up there, around there. These are more spectacular than the ones we saw down the bottom. Okay, 5 minutes here and then we'll head back to the vans and head on to the next outcrop. Oh, one more thing to note. There's no chert nodules here. Okay? That becomes important tomorrow. Okay? Today you don't have to worry about chert. Tomorrow we'll worry about chert. But There's not very much chert. There's some beginnings of chert in sort of those brownish coloured textures we saw down there, but there's no obvious chert nodule layers anywhere in this rock. The chert nodules we see tomorrow indicate probably a little bit deeper water, and I'll talk about why that is tomorrow. But just notice that there's very little of any chert nodule formation in any of the rocks we looked at today.
Limestone and brimstone is geological.
Mudstone.
Mechanical is rockstone, floatstone, packstone, redstone.
There we have a lot of rockstone.
Okay, so what is this rock? What are you going to classify it as? Facies mosaic. Okay.
What?
I said it's a facies mosaic, but here it's dominated by crinoidal floatstone textures with cavity fill in them. Okay, down there we saw a lot less crinoidal floatstone, and we saw a whole range of waxstone, packstone in the matrix. Okay. The fact that you've got so much cement fill in this stuff probably means there's a lot more porosity in this stuff as it was formed. You should get cement in cavity. It's porosity. There's a lot more cavity filling textures here than we saw down there. Okay, 5 more minutes to finish up, then we've got to move back and move on to the next outcrop. What are we going to do for lunch today? Are we going to take them back to the town, or do you want to go to a restaurant today? What are we going to do?
I'm looking at there's many small shop near the railway.
Okay.
We crossed this morning,
Okay.
so we go back to that.
Okay.
It's very more.
Because at least a portion of the shale here is interbedded with Permian limestone. So where you're standing, that shale, that terrigenous sediment that you're standing on is Permian. Because you've got Permian interbedded with the terrigenous shale. Okay? So what's that telling you? I mean, we basically drove over the mounded reef mound we were looking at, and we've now come lower down towards its base, and we're passing into a shale section. So the lower part of that carbonate build-up that we were looking at transitions down into shales. That's an important observation. We'll come back to that because we've got to reconstruct what did this platform look like. Well, this outcrop is telling us that in places those reef mounds, those muddy reef mounds, are interbedded with shale. The question is, how deep was the water where that shale was deposited? Was it 60 metres? Was it 600 metres? Okay? So we'll look at evidence of that today and tomorrow and the next day as well. So when you convince yourself that there's limestone, what sort of rock is it? What's the rock type? What's the rock type in the limestone? What? You haven't looked yet?
It is, but
They can't make up their mind?
yeah, maybe sometime.
Remember to have a look at weathered surfaces as well. That's quite close then, okay. Floatstone, rudstone, okay. We've got everything from mudstone / rudstone to / floatstone. So It's a crinoidal floatstone slash rudstone with a muddy matrix in places. Okay, when you've convinced yourself of that, we'll walk up the hill a bit. What's this section? Groundwater cast soil infiltration into joints. So that's cast. That's a modern, fairly recent cast of soil in cast. Okay. Terra Rossa, if you want to call it that, green soil. Okay. Infilling. Fissures and joints. So this is more or less standing on those ridges at the end of soil level.
Rockstone, Rockstone, Poststone แล้วก็วิดที่มาปิด
เมื่อกี้อาจารย์จอนเพิ่งโดน
So what's that? Eogenesis, mesogenesis, or telogenesis of this? Telogenesis. Very good. We're seeing it happening now. When you saw this in the ancient, you have to interpret it. Before that in core, okay, you wouldn't know that there's the landscape and there's soil moving down, so it's important to know what telogenesis looks like.
If this one we will again,
Yeah.
we can cement it on some.
Yeah, that will become quite cemented. You know, bury it again, cement it up. You get probably calcareous cement. Okay, when you commit yourself, that's a Terra Rossa in a joint, take one up.
แล้วเหรอนี่ถ่ายรูปอันนี้เป็นอะไรอ่ะหลับเหรอRudstone, right? What's it made out of? อะไรเหรอ
เป็นแฟนที่มัน
Crinoidal rudstone.
หัวคดิ
A little bit different
It's a lion.
from what we're seeing in terms of the crinoid
เหรอซุปเปอร์ไลท์เหรอ
แซนสโตนไงที่ข้างล่างมันไม่ใช่แซน
very
สโตน
nice
นะ
mudstone. There's not a lot of
อา
mud.
จารย์บอกว่าเป็น
A bit
แค่โซนที่อะไรนะ
มีอะไรนะ
ผลิตมาแตะ
crinoid.
คอมโพเนนต์วอลคานิกคอมโพเนนต์
It's not the same as when we saw in the last stop where we were up in that last stop where we looked
ใช่ไหมเป็นแก้วหรืออะไรอย่างเงี้ยแต่แก้วปกติ
rubber field. Where there was a lot of mud and other debris in there. It's pretty much a pure crinoidal mudstone in that layer. The kneecap level, shoulder down to the kneecap level. That's a very clean crinoidal mudstone. That's different. How did that get in place? Rework, yeah, it's mechanical deposition, okay? It's been replaced, it's been replaced by currents, unlike everything else we've seen where it was a little bit of local reworking in a facies mosaic. This is not a facies mosaic. This is a bed that you can follow all the way around for 20 metres that way until you lose it, and a few metres that way until you lose it. Okay, that's a bed of crinoidal rudstone that's been mechanically reworked. Now, where are we in relation to the Watt stop? Are we below it or above it? Whoa. Below it. Okay, this is the unit below all the things that we were looking at in the Watt stop, the previous stop. Okay, this is the rocks that are stratigraphically below our reef mountain. This is probably the base of the reef mountain. Okay, this is what, if you drilled a hole through that reef mound that we were on, we'd come through this, and then we come into interbedded shale and rudstone. So this is a sheet sand at the base, or if you like, if we look at it by Walter's law, further out off the mound. Here's the high with the reef mound, the corals, and the cavities and the cements and the Neptunian dikes. As we come down in terms of water depth, we get more crinoid, big crinoids, healthy crinoids. We come down further in water depth into deeper water. Maybe this is no longer the lit zone. Maybe this is dark, okay, down here. There's no longer light penetration. But now we've got this sheet of sand, okay, deeper. We don't know how deep is, but it's deeper water than what's in stop 2 that we looked at before. This is the equivalent of stop 3A. Okay, so we're not going to do in the guidebook because we can't get in. They built houses over where we wanted to go, but this is the same we wanted to see here. Okay, so this is actually very near stop 3B. Yeah. Well, we're going to go deeper. We're going to walk around the corner and see what's below. Okay, that's what we're doing. We're getting deeper as we're walking down this way. We're getting depositionally deeper. Okay, we're getting into deeper water. The first stop was the shallowest water that we looked at. Okay, and then when we walked back up the hill and looked at where that sill was, that was a little bit depositionally deeper. This is deeper again. And now we've lost the facies mosaic. We're now back into a typical laterally continuous bed of mechanically reworked and deposited sediment. You know, depositionally, I mean there's no porosity left in this anymore, but depositionally, of the rocks we've seen, this was probably the best in terms of reservoir quality. At the time of deposition, this would have been the most porous and permeable and laterally continuous rock type of the rock type that's in this one, the deeper water 8.